Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a Rune and Tarot Divination for Thursday, the 24th day of March, 2022. Well, I hope everybody's had a good week so far. Let's see, if this is the first time you've been here, welcome. And how we do this is I'm going to take a few minutes here to read the esoteric influences for today. And that comes from the weekly one I do that I post on Saturday nights for the whole week, just to give you kind of an idea of what that's about. I have links below the video as well to the blog, to Stepping Aside at imsteppingaside.com, as well as other places I am. So you can click on Show More if you want to go over to the blog and see what's there. There's also a newsletter sign up on the left side panel over there if you want to get that same thing and a couple other things in your inbox on Saturdays. If you don't, that's fine too. And if you ever do, if you ever subscribe to it and you decide, yeah, I've just got too much going on, I don't need to see this, I can just go to the blog or what have you, then you can go all the way down to the bottom and there's an unsubscribe thing you can click and you can just unsubscribe from it. So, and that the newsletter software takes care of all that. So once you do it, it's done. So anyway, at least that's my understanding. I do check though, and make sure, but still, you can do that very easily. So anyhow, let's take a look at today. We have a 6 numerology for the day itself. The 24 reduces to 6. So you're looking at harmony, empathy, shared path, guidance, assistance. The runes today were Yura and Fortuna Major. So Yura is the Elder Futhark rune meaning year or transformation, energetic alignment, unfolding awareness, cycles. It's an herbalism rune. I use it in a bind rune I have that I put out in my different garden spots, which I actually have to redo because they've been out there for so long you can barely see them now. But anyway, I have to redo them. I'll do that here probably in the next couple of weeks or so I can hang some new ones out in places. Let's see. Fortuna Major means greater fortune, achievement. It also means ego. On the downside, it can mean micromanagement. So let's see. The sun's in Aries, the moon's in Sagittarius until Capricorn this afternoon at 2:54 p.m. We're also in the third quarter. As of 10:38 p.m. tonight, we're in the third quarter moon. And the planetary governance today, if you're working magic, is Jupiter. So yesterday, this is referring to Wednesday's, had some discordant energies. So I said yesterday's discordant energies may resolve today, and a greater level of shared awareness or perspective may be possible. With empathy and compassion for the needs of others, you may find yourself in a better alignment with partners so that more progress is achieved today. That said, a square between the moon and Mercury today may affect how well decisions are made, and drama could result. That's where expressing empathy and compassion for others can make all the difference, instead of getting into it and fighting. Remain open and honest and listen to the diverse experiences partners share that can foster a new direction. And although it might be your initial impulse to hesitate to embrace new ideas, it may also keep you from achieving all that you desire. So avoid a suspicious attitude and embrace a new day. So let's get that out of the way. Let's see, I don't think I can drink my tea yet. I think it's still too hot. But let's go ahead and take a rune here from the Elder Futhark bag and see what our rune for the reading is. Sometimes they will align with the ones I have for the particular day I do the reading. And I do these on Mondays and Thursdays. So it's kind of cool when that happens. We have Birkenau. And Birkenau is kind of the goddess rune. It's the Earth Mother rune. It's about healing and family. It's also about bringing something to fruition, so you could think of it in terms of not just the pregnancy, but the birth itself. That would be bringing the pregnancy to fruition, basically. But you can see within the rune, you can see Vunyo there, so joy and fellowship. You see Kenaz, which is the greater than sign, turned inward twice, and that would be reversed, and then outward here in the center. You can see that's the light of spirit or the torch. Illumination and clarity. You can also see Laguz in it, Isa. There's Iredo in it too, which is integrated motion. But it's the idea of, I mean, it's one of the collective consciousness runes. In a way, the third Ayet, or the third set of 8 runes in the Elder Futhark, deals with that. So you'll find Othala, and let's see, what all do you find there? Because Birkenau, see, Dagaz, Othala, Ingus, Lagus, Manas, Ewaz, Birkenau, Tiwaz. Those are all, I think Tiwaz is part. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so Tiwaz would start it. I don't always have these in order when I have them over in my notes section there, but I think I did. I think I put these in order. Yeah, I did finally. But it's in that section of it where you're really talking about the collective aspect of self. And so that's why you'll see runes like this in there that have more to do with the group versus just you. So, but anyway, Birkenau then is about healing. We'll say that. And about family. So maybe we'll see what that's the above side, the as above side of the runes here. Let's see what the below side is. And with Geomancy is kind of interesting. Oh, it looks like we have Albus, which is wisdom and clarity. Geomancy is kind of interesting. It can involve a lot of different things. It can involve, it's anything earth-oriented, earth energy type of stuff. So the ley lines could be considered that. Also, working with pendulums, because you're accessing that energetic flow when you're looking at pendulum stuff, using one of those to divine something. It looks for energy sources. That's why it's really good. Either a pendulum, or that's one of them. I don't even know how many I have. The others you can use are rods to divine. You know, my uncle years ago, he was a contractor, but he also, and this was up in Alaska, he also witched wells for people. He was a water witcher. And he would use rods like that to discover where the best place to put a well in was. So he would always, so if he was putting a new home into a property and was going to have a well on it, then he would witch the well. So a little bit of trivia from my life there. Here's Albus, though. But here you have, what I've done here is I've taken 4 runes that are coded air, fire, water, and earth. I don't think you can see them very well. Anyway, there's 1 dot on one side, which is an active influence, 2 dots on the other side, which indicates a passive influence. And then you throw them down, and however you put them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth, and it ends up looking like this. So we've got passive influences on everything other than water here, active influence on water. But this is Albus. Its complement is Rubeus. Albus would be the sage, or the wise one. So it'd be wisdom and clarity. Whereas Rubeus, its complement is considered evil. It's considered, you've got the earlier energies of Pur and Puella or Puea, which are the little boy and little girl energies. And so the little boy energy would be very lack of impulse control and all of that. Rubeus would be its adult version of it, though, where there's more, acting with intention, acting in a way that's harmful to other people. It's a misuse of force, basically. But that's intentional. It's not accidental, like a little boy might make a mistake, and do something that, later he learns, well, you can't do that. The adult version of it with Rubeus, that's what they do. So you have to be real careful with that kind of energy when it comes up. So basically, then the as above side is Birkenau. So healing and family and all of that. Let me get my keyboard out of the way. And then the below side then is to act with wisdom. So essentially, instead of the ego running amok, it's basically getting informed by spirit, at least at this point. We'll see what the cards have to say, though. They may tell a different story, but usually I can read them in this, with the runes being really the overall significator of the reading. But sometimes I'll get a mishmash of stuff. It's like, what the heck is this? So it could just simply be that there's a lot of conflict between what spirit wants and what the ego wants. Hopefully you get a better balance with the two, but not always. Well, we have a couple of kings here, which is never a good sign. Um, but if you look at them from the standpoint of authority, then it might make the Eight of Pentacles a little more understood. We'll start with that first. We have the King of Pentacles and the King of Wands, and so you're looking at a run on Pentacles, which is the earth element. So that's going to be everything about our physical existence. The Wands would, now that's going to be the fire element, so that's going to be expressions of will and creativity and the spark of life and all of that. But it's an interesting thing. I'll show you together in a second after we talk about the Eight. The eight means material achievement and recognition. It also means strength and leadership. The Eight of Pentacles, you can see he's working diligently on his craft. He's well prepared for the future. If you look at these in terms of money, which you don't have to, you can just look at it in terms of the effect of his actions. Then basically he's increasing his well, I mean, if he's a craftsman, he could be readying things for people to look at that he's created, and so that way they might be interested in having him do something for them. But the Eight really is about working. The Eight of Pentacles is really about working diligently on your craft, preparing for the future. Now, inherent in that is authority, isn't it? There's a self type of authority. We're probably going to be drawing another card here. We won't let this stand with three. But when you look at court cards, okay, sometimes they will talk to one another. You can move them around. So you could do this, for example. And then that would mean this one's talking to this one. But that's not how I drew it. So let's just talk about it this way first. This could indicate two different perspectives in terms of what authority is and leadership is, and preparing for one's future and having the willpower to do that. Here you have the King of Wands, who's going to be dynamic. We'll put both of these down here. He's going to be dynamic with the wands. There you can see his little salamander there. That's an elemental for the element fire. But he's holding his wand or his staff out in front of him. You see the Ouroboros here and here. You see the lion. So you see a lot of Mars energy, a lot of Aries energy there. Serpentine energy. And that's really about the spark of life. And so the willpower, the ability to go forth and do something for yourself. And so clearly he's embodying that, isn't he? Because he's not working with other people. There's nobody standing over him telling him what to do. This is a very self-determined, self-directed individual. And he's taking his own self-determined path, basically, by having his own business, having his own skill set, working on his own, plying his trade, going around letting people see what he can do and showing that he's good at what he does, and helping to motivate them to have him do something for them. It's like I knew this cabinet maker, and it was very good, and people knew about him because if someone had them build something for them, a desk or a piece of furniture, or do cabinet work or whatever, he did such a good job, so the word of mouth, he didn't even have to advertise all that much. The word of mouth was just there because his reputation was good. He was a good businessman. He was honest. They could trust him. He communicated with people. They knew what was going on. And so doing those sorts of responsible things, and kings can often be self-centered, but at the same time, they have the responsibility for the kingdom, right? And so if we want to look at this purely positively, how you express authority in your life, clearly he's doing it in a self-determined way. Well, kings are very much like that. But the interesting part about this king is he's not looking at us. Kings rarely do. But he is looking toward the past. And so you could say that the past is informing the choices that he makes. He's paying attention to that, that he's not ignoring experience, you know. And so maybe the experience that this guy here in the 8 has gained, maybe he's gotten it from somebody else. Maybe he you know, was an apprentice to somebody before he set out on his own. And so there's the quality of this that maybe talks about that. And the only way we know that is because of this guy. Otherwise, we would be limited in what we could say about him. But you look at now the king here, he's got, let's see, he's got some ram's heads on here, on his, yeah, 4 ram's heads on his, well, or goat, whatever. But kind of look more goat-like, don't they? What do you think? You see them here and here and here and here. Or is it lions? Is it a lion? No, no. No, I mean, it really looks more, it looks more goat-like than or instead of like a sheep, he looks more goat-like. But anyway, you see the kingdom behind him, and he's got a lot of abundance. You see the grapes around him, you see all of the leaves. That indicates abundance. So he's got a lot of wealth. But the idea of Pentacles is that he's gathering that wealth for the future, right? And also for the present. So I think that with the 2 kings here, we're talking about authority. We're talking about maybe different perspectives of authority. And I think that it makes sense when you're trying to make your way in life to have some of that varied. Let's do one more card, though. We might do 2. We'll see what this one says. But again, I think when you're trying to work your craft and you're trying to learn all of that, and you're establishing yourself, you know, in the world in terms of your career, I think it makes sense to have a well-rounded vision. And in this case, we've got the 1 king that is taking into account other perspectives from the past experience. So again, that could indicate a mentor that you might have when you're trying to build your career. It could refer to education, some kind of education, but with what he's doing, it looks more like maybe it's more of an apprentice type of a situation that he had to get to where he is. But then again, you still have to have an eye toward your material security, and that's where the King of Pentacles comes in. And so whatever you're doing, if this is something where maybe you're considering, any of you listening are considering starting your own career, you know, there's a lot of ways to look at that, a lot of factors to consider. So don't rule out the idea of a mentor or having or listening to the past experience of other people. Because it can only help you. Even if you end up saying, well, that doesn't really apply to my situation, there could come a time where you'll remember back to what that person said, and you're like, oh, you know, and you may encounter a situation where it might apply. And so, you know, don't forget those things. You might set them aside for a while, but again, maybe not. It could be relevant when you least expect it. But again, you know, you're really talking about the kinds of choices for this that are going to help you in terms of your material security going forward, especially if you have responsibilities of a family or whatnot. That's the King of Pentacles. So as he's diligently working on his craft, you know, who knows, maybe he's thinking about these kinds of things, how to make the business better, how to make it more secure. So if you already have one, and see with Birkenau and Albus, I almost said Alies, but Albus, you're really looking at. I would say that Albus is probably applying to the 2 kings here, and then Birkenau might be maybe a little more resonant with the 8 of Pentacles. But the idea of getting some wisdom from somebody else, a person in authority with more experience, if you are embarking on something new, or if you're just trying to maybe reassess what it is you're doing and find some other ways to explore on how to do different things. Maybe you want to expand the business or something. Maybe you want to go and get more training. expand what you're doing, even, or to refresh what you know. It just depends. It depends on what it is that's happening in your life, how you want to see this. But let's take one more card. I'm going to take the 13th one for randomness sake. Those of you who have been here a while, you know that 13 figures I was born on the 13th of October, so our new grandson was born on the 13th of January, and our first grandchild was born on July 13th, and then the second grandchild was born on July 31st. So it's the same numerology for the day, just inverted, but it's kind of interesting. 13 has always been a number that, I don't know, things happen in 13s for me. So anyway, here we have the Ace of Swords. New perspective. Swords is the air element, and that's going to be our mental process. It's going to be intellect, fairness, balance, justice. My favorite card is and I've said this before, it's right here, I have it on top, from the Thoth or Thoth tarot from Crowley, is the Queen of Swords. She's reclined on her throne. It's a crystal throne. She's up in the clouds. She's exhausted. She's just spent from dealing with this guy, but she's got a dripping, is it dripping? No, there's one, sometimes you'll see it where it's dripping blood, but she's got a sword in one hand and a severed head in the other, and it's basically a lion's head, essentially, is what it looks like, or a lion type figure. She's just sick and tired of authority, that doesn't make any sense. It's just playing games, and so off with his head. That's my favorite card in all of the tarot decks that I use, and I use a bunch, and just this one here, I use Rider-Waite for these readings, but otherwise I like to play around with other decks, and I love that deck. I think it's very cool. I mean, it is so non-traditional, it's not even funny, but I just think it's very cool. I think what Lady Frida Harris did when she painted those cards, I just thought she was brilliant. I love the colors. It evokes a lot. I'm an empath, so it evokes a lot of that in me, that whole emotion and the color can bring out. It's just interesting. I don't know. I like what she did. Anyway, that to me is the epitome of the Queen of Swords. It's just like, okay, I've had enough. I've just cut through the crap. Enough is enough. Off with his head, anyway. Yeah, people, male authority patriarchal authority can sometimes leave much to be desired. So women, eventually you just get tired of it, don't you? You just get tired of it. Well, that's that card. And get tired of the lies, tired of the deception, tired of the BS, tired of all of it, right? Don't you just want to recline in a crystal throne and just go, God, I've had enough? I feel that way a lot. But anyway, we have the Ace of Swords. A hand reaches out from the clouds, which is typical theme in tarot, particularly with the aces. Although you see it in the Four of Cups as well. But here we have anytime you see a crown up at the top, this is higher self-awareness up here with the garland and the crown. But you see it piercing the crown. This is the anytime you see aces is about new beginnings, and so this is the beginning of new perception, new awareness. And I think that obviously something has come about where you're rethinking the authority in your life, perhaps, and how you express that, the kinds of things that you're concerned about, the things that you're really in charge of. And you want to do it with the Geomancy Rune Albus. You want to bring in the idea of wisdom. And so maybe you do talk to somebody that has maybe more experience and you're getting some advice. And that could also be the Ace of Swords. So we'll put that with the Kings. But then from there, you gather it all together and you really start progressing on now. This could actually be not something you're doing right now, but this is the result of listening to people that maybe have some more experience, getting a different perspective on something, and then you can really it motivates you to move on and create even more security for yourself and your family. And then that's going to align with Birkenau then today. So that's interesting. The Ace of Swords ended up So we've got air, fire, and earth represented there, really ended up informing us as to what's really going on here. Again, if you just look at this card alone, you're going to come up with some positive stuff. You're going to come up with some stuff that is important, that can help you. But when you see it in relationship to the other cards, then you can really get a maybe a little bit different perspective. And here, we didn't really know how. We had to guess at how the kings came about, but now we know. He was looking for new perspective, and he got it, and now he's able to really progress, because you can really see he's working very diligently, but he's really growing his wealth and really growing his security. And again, when you relate it to Birkenau, you're talking about the security of the family. So and with the idea of one thing coming to fruition, maybe your mindset that you had before, you were able to talk to some people that maybe gave you some good advice. It was one thing that comes to fruition, and now with the advice of the new mentors in your life, then, if you want to call it that, now you're able to really proceed on and create more for yourself and create more for your family. So I don't know how that resonates for people today. It could probably apply to a lot of different things, but think about it and see how it resonates for you. You might come up with an entirely different interpretation here, and that's great. That's fine too. I try to keep it somewhat general, so that unless it's like something's really jumping out and something really specific, I like to kind of keep it a little more general, so that it can apply to a lot of different people and a lot of different circumstances in our lives. So with my husband, he's putting in a new hugel bed. And what a hugel bed is usually done in dry areas, and we live on the high desert, so we like to conserve water, and so we like to use our irrigation water in our garden, and when we can direct it into a hugel beds are usually, you dig down, although you don't have to, you can just start setting things on the ground. You dig down, and he's got it about 2 feet down, and big, huge bed. And the numerology of which is 13, by the way. I figured that out yesterday when he gave me the dimensions, but so that's another 13. But anyway, you lay a bunch of logs in there and a bunch of wood debris and whatnot, and you start piling in compost and dirt and whatever you've got. Eventually, you're going to have a mound. It's not going to be flat on the ground. You're going to have to mound it up. And we'll probably plant some pumpkins in it just to get it started this year. But usually it takes about 3 years for a hugel bed to really get going. But the idea is that it feeds itself. The sticks and the logs and all of that. The logs help you bring water into it down there, and we can direct irrigation water down into that, and they stay wet, and so it helps with if you don't have a lot of water where you are, it helps with that. It helps keep things moist, and then it also, as it breaks down, it feeds the plants that are growing, and if you put compost on there all the time, every year and throughout the year, then you're really you've got a really organic way of gardening that's just great. I've got one area that is basically was where our compost piles were, and we moved them over and we created a bed there, and we have some of it's hugeled and some of it isn't, but we don't even hardly have to put any fertilizer on it. So, and then the hugel beds we have one that's within both inside and outside the dome greenhouse we have, and we literally direct water from our irrigation into both sides of it, and it fills it up, and it keeps, we don't have to water very much. We still water, but not as long as we would have to, because we not only have dry soil, we also have wind, and so you're really fighting the elements here. And so we discovered this. He saw it on YouTube, and so he's like, oh gosh, look at this is perfect. So that's what he's out there doing. He's finished digging it, and now he laid some of the logs in yesterday, and now he's going to go and put some more debris in it, and then he's going to start putting the compost from the compost pile in it. So new garden bed this year. It's always fun to do that. We did one a couple years ago, or was it last year? Maybe it was last year we did one, and we planted pumpkins in it, and it was very cool. So anyway, our chickens love pumpkins. They just love them. We keep them in a cold area, out in an outbuilding, and then we can feed it to them throughout the winter. And the pumpkin seeds are natural dewormers, so I don't know. It's a win-win. They love it. we don't just feed our chickens chicken food. We cook for them and all of that. So anyway, that's it. I don't have anything else to say. Thanks for watching. And do check out the blog over at imsteppingaside.com. It's called Stepping Aside. If you want to check out my Patreon page, that's a patron site. It's $1 a month to join there. And you can check that out. I also do a couple things on Medium. I post that on Sundays. I forgot to do it, though, this week. I posted it on Mondays. Like, oh, geez. But anyway, look for that. And the posts have already been scheduled. I finished them. There's 4 of them. Look for them to come out on Saturday night, and check all those out. And come back again Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. And blessed be.